What's going on, everybody? So I've been scouring the internet for every detail I could possibly get on the Nintendo Switch 2. It's taken a total of 12 hours to get all of these details, so I hope there's something in this list of facts about the Nintendo Switch 2 that may surprise you. Number one is the Switch 2 seems to have a 20 watt hour battery. That translates to a 5,220 milliamp hour battery, which lasts about 2 to 6.5 hours. And for example, that is half the size of the original Steam Deck battery of 40 watt hours, which is also around 11,000 milliamp hours. And that's actually pretty close to the original Nintendo Switch's battery, which is 16 watt hours and lasts around 2.5 to 6.5 hours. But unfortunately, the Switch 2 will have less battery life than its predecessor. But most likely we will get an OLED model, which will most likely have an improved battery, along with an OLED screen to push that battery capacity even further. And number two, the Nintendo Switch is using an NVIDIA Orin T239. Now, this is actually not fact, but this is the rumored CPU that the Nintendo Switch 2 is using. And I know you guys don't care about teraflops, but it has 3.1 teraflops when docked and 1.6 teraflops in handheld mode. And that's based on its 1,536 CUDA cores and clock speeds. So basically that means it's 2 times more powerful than a base PlayStation 4 when docked and roughly 20% less powerful than a PlayStation 4 in handheld mode. Number three, the NVIDIA Orin T239, which is rumored to power the Nintendo Switch 2, features an octa-core ARM Cortex A78C CPU, a 12SM Ampere GPU, and that's going to be powered by 12 gigabytes of 128-bit LDDR4 memory, along with dedicated RTN Tensor cores for ray tracing and AI enhancements. And that basically means ray tracing will be very possible with most Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games and possibly upgraded Nintendo Switch 1 games. And there will be enough memory for efficient upscaling like DLSS, since it is an NVIDIA CPU. Number four, the system will be 1.18 pounds or 535 grams. And for reference, the original Nintendo Switch is 0.88 pounds or 399 grams. The Switch Lite is 0.611 pounds or 277 grams. And the Steam Deck OLED is 1.41 pounds or 640 grams. Lastly, the ROG Ally is 1.34 pounds or 608 grams, which makes the Switch 2 one of the lightest modern mainstream handhelds. And number five, the Nintendo Switch is using 12 gigabytes of LDDR5 RAM, as I mentioned before, with speeds of 6400 megahertz. And for reference, again, the original ROG Ally and Steam Deck OLED both use LDDR5 RAM with speeds of 6400 megahertz, so expect multitasking similar to those handhelds. And number six, the Switch 2 will not be using Hall effect sticks, but instead a more durable version of the analog sticks we saw with the Nintendo Switch 1, and hopefully the more durable sticks will mean less Joy-Con drift, and by less Joy-Con drift, hopefully there will be none. Number seven, the Switch 2 CPU chip is 5 nanometers, which will deliver more power and efficiency than the first Nintendo Switch by a huge margin. For example, the Switch 1 was 20 nanometers, the Steam Deck OLED is 6 nanometers, and the ROG Ally is 4 nanometers, and proven to be the best in terms of power to power consumption ratio. So 5 nanometers is extremely impressive, especially by Nintendo standards. And number eight, Nintendo has confirmed the Nintendo Switch 1 game upgrades to Switch 2 will only support a docked resolution of up to 1440p for certain titles and a full 1080p in handheld. So there will be no 4K support for certain paid upgraded titles like Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, and Mario Party Jamboree, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. And number nine, while the Switch 2 exclusives and remasters with DLC will be $80, some third-party games and remasters will be $40 to $60, like Bravely Default, Breath of the Wild Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, and Street Fighter 6. And number 10, for me, is the most surprising fact. Apparently, Nintendo Switch 1 games are not compatible with the Nintendo Switch 2 hardware in any level. And according to Switch 2 developers, Kawamoto, Dawada, and Sasaki, in order to play Switch 1 games, they needed to actually use a hybrid software which could emulate Nintendo Switch 1 titles similar to how Yuzu and Ryujinx does it, but they made a hybrid software that worked like an emulator, and also to make Nintendo Switch 1 games artificially native to the Nintendo Switch Switch 2's software to save on battery life and to get the performance that people expect from playing the Nintendo Switch 2's predecessor's games. Because while the developer spoke on this, they mentioned if they exclusively emulated Nintendo Switch 1 games on the Switch 2, the Switch 2 would have to run at full power while playing those games. And of course, they had to make the change so they wouldn't have to emulate their own Nintendo Switch 1 games on Nintendo Switch 2 hardware. Ironic, isn't it? But yeah, guys, those are the facts I found about the Nintendo Switch 2, and let me know if you didn't know any on the list. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Later. No!